How can you tell if you have a critical spirit? I'm going to give you 6 ways to determine that fact right now. Okay, let's just admit it. Many of us have critical spirits and we don't even realize it. But it's the number one thing people know about you. So if you have a critical spirit, other people know that. It's very apparent because of the things that you exude, the things that you talk about, the spirit that you carry around is very obvious. Other people know it usually before we do. So we can ask ourselves, do I have a critical spirit? Well, I'm going to give you 6 ways to determine whether or not you do. Number 1 way, if most of your conversations are negative talk about other people. So when you find yourself in a great conversation with somebody else and you're talking and it's just like, man, this conversation is going really well, then you stop and ask yourself, am I talking negatively about other people? Because you can easily find a common enemy. Find somebody that you want to talk about, start talking negative, hoping that that other person is going to buy into that talk. Sometimes they do, they fall into the trap. And they fall into that with you, and now you're just both bashing this third-party person who's not there to defend themselves. And that is an easy way to determine if you have a critical spirit, if you mostly talk negatively about other people. Now, here's the thing. If you find that euphoric, if you get a charge out of that, if you feel like that's a great conversation, you're getting energy, you're passionately talking about it, and you feel euphoric about it, that's even worse. That is a true sign that you have a critical spirit. If you talk negatively about people, and if you really get euphoric when you talk negatively about other people, if you find yourself just kind of wanting to build that army against a common enemy, that is a true sign. So number 1, if you find yourself talking negatively about other people and you get a charge out of that, you might have a critical spirit. Number 2, if you find yourself one-upping other people's good news. Now, I've talked about this on other videos, one-upping somebody. What that means is if they share something with you, oh, my child just got all A's, and you go, yeah, well, my child gets all A's all the time. Or if they say, hey, we're thinking about buying a new house. Oh, we just bought a new house and we love ours. We'll probably never move again. If you always find yourself one-upping somebody, if they're trying to share something with you and you can't help yourself from talking about yourself and your stuff and your stories, you might have a critical spirit. So be careful of that. People are sharing good news to celebrate with you. They want you to tell them, great job, that's awesome, that's super, man, you're so lucky. They want that. That's why they're sharing that good news with you, is because they want you to celebrate their news with them. So don't one-up people. Don't compare your stuff with their stuff. When they share something good, just enjoy that. Resist it. So if you do have a story that's probably better than theirs, if you do have that, just hold it. That's not the time and the place. Find another time to tell that story and share it. Then it'll be your good news. But don't one-up people's good news with your good news or what you think to be good news, because it doesn't sit well with the other person. And if you do that, you might have a critical spirit. Number 3, if you find it easier to laugh cynically rather than to celebrate. So when somebody does share something with you and inside you're like, yeah, right. Yeah, that's awesome. If you find it easier, and that's your first knee-jerk reaction, to laugh cynically. So if you're in a crowd, maybe it's not exposed that much because now you got 4 or 5 people, somebody sharing their story, and you can just sit there and roll your eyes and laugh cynically. While other people maybe are one-upping them and they're telling their story and revealing their critical spirit. Or there's others that might be celebrating and actually enjoying the person's news. So it's going to be a wide variety if you have multiple people. But if your role and your first reaction is to laugh cynically, rather than to celebrate, you might have a critical spirit. So check yourself. Ask yourself, are you doing that? Reveal it to yourself. Find yourself doing it and then catch it and stop and say, ooh, I probably shouldn't do that because that's not very attractive. Critical spirits, let me just insert this little thought. Critical spirits are not attractive. They are very weighty, aggravating, depressing. Nobody wants to be around a big wet blanket. So don't think it's in any way making you look like a better person. Number 4, if you focus more on what can go wrong than what can go right. So if a situation comes up and you're listing all the reasons why it won't work or why it's going to go wrong or why we shouldn't do this, rather than maybe getting behind it and helping out, especially in a work environment. If somebody comes in with a new idea, a new policy, a new procedure that you have to do, a new way of doing things, and you just beat it down and you critique it to death, rather than looking positively and getting behind it and supporting it and then letting the problems expose itself, you might have a critical spirit. So check yourself on that with this number 4. Do you mostly find things wrong with a situation rather than right? Do you list the wrong things, the negative things, the things that can go wrong, rather than getting behind something and thinking positive and being a good team player and helping somebody out with their dream? Maybe they shared something with you that they're going to start doing. Hey, I'm thinking about taking this new job, or I'm excited about this new job, or I'm doing this project or whatever. And you're like, oh, that's not going to work because of blah, blah, blah. You don't want to be a huge Debbie Downer. Yeah, the infamous character on Saturday Night Live has a critical spirit. So if you find yourself being the Debbie Downer in a situation a lot, you might have a critical spirit. Number 5, if you justify yourself as a realist. So you know you have a critical spirit. You know you're like that. You're a negative person, but you often say, I'm just looking at it real. I'm just a realist. I'm just telling you the real situation. You might have a critical spirit because you're justifying what's wrong in your life. You're justifying your critical spirit as being real, a truth teller. I'm just telling you the facts. Don't look at it that way because nobody else does. So don't justify your negative critical spirit by claiming that you're a realist. Don't do that. Number 6, this is going to call some of you out. You might want to just hit stop right now, because if I tell you this and you do it, guilty as charged. You have a critical spirit. If most of your social media posts are about problems rather than solutions, if most of your social media posts are negative rather than positive, critiquing rather than complimenting, you might have a critical spirit. Double check yourself. Go back on your social media posts. Look through your Instagram, your Twitter, your TikTok, whatever it is you have, your Facebook, whatever platform you use, and see what your posts are. They negative or positive? Are they problems or solutions? Man, you can go through social media feeds right now in the world that we live in with all this crap going on. You see a lot of negative posts. People love sharing bad news. But rarely do you find somebody uniting people with positive language, and this is what we can do about it, and this is the way we should handle this, and here's a great solution you might not have heard of. You don't see much of that. You see a lot of woe, negative, sharing negative news. Most of it's lies anyway. Most of it's half stories. They take something that is, very maybe not good or bad, but they only focus on the bad part of it, and they tell you that bad part of the story to create some big narrative that, this is an epidemic and it's going on all over the world, this bad, bad, bad. When really they need to be talking about solutions, because most people want good news rather than bad news. Most people want solutions rather than problems. So go back through your social media posts and check yourself. Is most of the stuff that I'm sharing negative? Or is it positive? Is it uplifting? Is it helping somebody, or is it hurting somebody? Is it exposing a problem or proposing a solution? Check yourself on that, because if most of your crap posts are negative and you're sharing negative news and you can't wait to hit share on some negative nugget, you probably have a critical spirit. So that's 6 ways to determine if you have a critical spirit. Now, what do you do about it? I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do about it. So if those exposed you and you're now thinking, guilty as charged, I have a negative spirit, I have a critical spirit, what can I do about that? What can I do? So number 1, you have to start with finding the root of the problem. You need to look at yourself and ask yourself and self-evaluate, why do I have this critical spirit? Where did it come from? Do I have daddy issues? Maybe some of you do. Have I just been, dealt a bad hand? Am I usually the victim rather than the victor? Do I find myself always the receiver of bad news? Is it, woe is me, everything's wrong, I don't have this, I don't have that? What is the root of your critical spirit? Is it loss? Is it something you missed out on? Is it something you feel that you don't have? Is it a big void in your life that's not filled yet? Are you looking for happiness in the wrong places and you're just not finding it? So you're totally a critical person because you're just looking in the wrong places for happiness? So number 1, find the root of your critical spirit. Where is it coming from? And then start addressing that. Number 2, you've got to realize that a critical spirit is sin. A critical spirit usually stems from some kind of loss, some kind of void, some kind of jealousy. Well, jealousy comes from coveting. Ooh, coveting, where have I heard that before? Thou shalt not covet, right? So it's a sin. Know that your critical spirit is separating you from God. It's sin. Confess it. Call it what it is. I don't want to live this way. I don't want to have this critical spirit. I don't want to think this way. I want to get rid of it. It's of the enemy. It's not one of the fruits of the Spirit. If you look through the fruits of the Spirit, critiqueness or critical or negative is not part of it. So when you go through that list of fruits of the Spirit, guess what? Negativity is not one of those. Critical spirit is not one of those. Critiquing others, always being jealous of other things, coveting other things is not a fruit of the Spirit. So realize that it's a sin and start dealing with it in your life. Number 3, the way to deal with it is get accountability. Most of us can't solve our problems on our own. We need other people. So find truth tellers that you respect in your life and be ready for them to call you out. Give them permission to call you out. Hey, when we go out tonight, if you hear me going down the negative road or having a critical spirit, just nudge me under the table. Give me some kind of sign. Give me some kind of something to stop it. Start talking positively, but give me that look where I know, ooh, okay, shut up, don't do that. Don't go down that road. Don't start talking negatively about that other person. Help me out, hold me accountable. And then in private, hey, ask them, do I have a critical spirit? What do I do? Give them permission to call you out, because you have to give them permission or they can't call you out. Then they're thinking, oh, yeah, right, I'm setting myself up for screwing this relationship up. Nah, you know what? I'm just not going to tell you what I really think or who you really are. I don't want to expose who you really are, because then we're going to lose our friendship. Give them permission to call you out and be ready. Put your big girl pants on and be ready to hear that news when they call you out and they say, yeah, you know what? You're just a big wet blanket. I don't like talking to you sometimes. Sometimes when we're on the phone, I try to get off the phone because you have smothered me in your negativity. I don't like it. You're a big giant blanket of wetness, negativity, and it's heavy. And I don't want that in my life. I blocked your social media posts because I'm sick of seeing all the negativity. I'm sick of the stuff that you share. Be ready and allow them to call you out. So get accountability is huge in your getting out of this. So there you go. That's 6 ways how you can determine if you have a critical spirit, and 3 things that you can do about it. 3 practical things that you can do about it. So there you go. Go check yourself and find out if this is you or not, and then do something about it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing to my channel. If you haven't yet, please do so. If you like podcasts better, most of my videos are podcasts also. So check that out on all the different platforms. See you next time. Thanks for stopping by.